Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones, and today I am joined by Eugene Smith. Welcome, Eugene.
Hi,
How,
my name is Eugene Smith, and I am a functional nutrition counselor, a practitioner, or advisor, whichever one you choose. Anyway, let me start that off. Hi, my name is Eugene Smith. I'm with Be Like Life Nutrition. I am a functional nutrition practitioner. My story starts about 18 years ago when I started growing vegetables and herbs as a hobby. And so as I started doing that, I started getting a little bit more interested in where my food came from. And that meant, I guess a little while later, I started spending 2 hours in the grocery store looking at labels like, okay, I'm up because like, what is this? What is, what are they putting in the food or what is this ingredient? And so I started learning what ingredients were not good or were not healthy for me and my family. So with that, that led to uh, just more learning on the internet and just doing a lot more research. And with supplements were good. And at the time, I wasn't doing any hard workouts. I really wasn't working out at all. Right around that time, my dad got sick,
mm,
and he was in the hospital for about 6 months before he passed. But during that time, it was kind of really rough because my dad was my best friend. So I went through a lot, but when he'd come home from the hospital, I said, Dad, you don't need to be eating that. He's like, I'm 79, 80 years old. I can eat what I want. Like, okay. I couldn't say anything to her, So eventually when he passed, I went through a bit of a rough patch. And then through that rough patch, I started getting myself together. And with that, I started training, started working out. And I was looking for something a little bit more to do once I got to a certain fitness level. So I looked up and joined a track club, which a track team or track club, whichever you
hmm
prefer, coached by Bill Collins. And I looked at a couple of other teams, but Bill's Bill's wording on his site just felt comfortable. And I called him up and talked to him a few times before I actually went out. And I think I talked to him in November, and I think in February I finally went out, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in shape. I can hang." Because I think I went out the day before just to kind of do a little spying and stuff. I was like, "Oh, I can do that. I've been doing that. I've been doing 100 repeats, so I can do that." And I got on the track for my first day, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna do 100. You're gonna do 100 repeats," which is basically what they do for the new guys. You do
right.
100. So I think, okay, you want to do 10 100 repeats. I was like, what? 10 100. Okay, so I did 10 100 repeats. I struggled through that. And then Bill's wife, Stephanie, was like, okay, now you're going to do 100 sit-ups.
Holy moly.
And I'm like, what? Okay, I'll do 100 sit-ups. And then that went on. I got kind of more acclimated. And one day we were doing a stadium workout indoors. I think it's because the weather was nasty outside. So we went into the basketball stadium at Rice University where we trained.
Okay.
And so we were doing a stair workout, and I was like, oh my God, this is killer. Because I was like, oh man, I love doing plyo. Bill was like, well, you're in good shape for your age, you're okay, but you're not in track shape. And so that evolved into me, training more. And I think I competed we had our first race, and I started in February with them, and we had our first race in June. And I think I did, that was my first race. And so I ran 100 meters. And I ran 100-meter for I think the rest of that season, and I was like, okay, look, I need to get my 100 better. So I started running the 200 meter, and then once I got 200, I'm like, no, I need more. So I said I want to run the 400, and then go back down. Once I got to the 400, I was like, man, I like it.
This is so hard for me to grasp because I'm all, wait, so to order to run faster at shorter distances, you're running longer and more.
Well, yeah, because you want to be able to run through that distance
Okay.
as keeping as much energy and velocity as you can. So you want to run over. And that's funny because a lot of 100-meter sprinters come to train with us or join the team or whatever. They're like, I've never trained like this. All we did was run 100 meters, 150 meters, 200. We never ran 300s. We never ran fours. We never ran fives. Philosophy on that, because a lot of sprint coaches will they only do speed work. And Bill's philosophy is, hey, look, during the off season from September or August all the way through starting January, December, January, we do base work and then gradually start doing speed work because his philosophy is you do the base work to get your legs ready to handle speed. So you don't
Mm.
have as many injuries when you start doing a lot of speed work because speed work, sprinting, speed kills. And you pull something, especially when, 40, 50 years old, or even the younger guys. We have young guys train with us as well. And, you start pulling things and it's always good to have that base training.
So I have a question for you. How old do you have to be to compete in Masters track?
Masters will let you brought the age down from 35, I think 30, 35 to 25.
Holy moly,
And
that's
they
young.
did it to 25 because they want to bring more people in who weren't running track in college or finished
Mm.
college. They want to bring more people in. But we were always like, well, well, it's not exclusive if it's bringing the younger guys in, but the younger guys cannot compete in world masters. They have to be it's 30 and up. And I think
Okay.
nationals, I don't think the 25-year-olds can compete. They have to run open,
Now,
if
do
I'm not
they
mistaken.
separate you by your age groups? Like I know with
It's in groups of
triathlon,
five. It's
um,
in
you
groups of
know,
five. So I'm sorry to cut you off. So it's groups of five, like 50 to 54, and then 55 to
okay.
60, and then on and on and on and on up to as long as you can run. They have 100-year-olds running.
Yeah, I've seen those. There's been a couple of super cool people that I've seen that have, are 88 years
Uh,
old and running like a 9 second 100 or whatever 10 second.
but
I don't know.
there's a video of Bill out there that says he's ran a 10, I think it's a 10-2 or 10-6, and they said he was 60, but no, Bill's like, no, I wasn't 60. I think he said I was 55, 50, 55. He said he was younger, but he said that video is wrong. It's misinformation. But Bill
But
was
you
very,
understand how crazy that is, though, right?
yes, yes,
Okay. I just for those of us that are not sprinters, that is some insane.
that's really insane.
Yeah, that's just amazing, and
Yeah,
insane in a good way. Like if your body is capable of doing those things, then that says a lot about who you are, and even doing the work, because it sounds like doing
yeah.
the work is also pretty intense as well.
It's very intense. It's more intense than PT in the Army was when I was in my. Granted, I wasn't in special forces or infantry, so the PT was not as harsh, but it was it could still be brutal. Running 5 miles in formation is not fun.
No, not at all. As someone who's been there and doing it, and on top of that, singing.
Right, calling cadence, and then
Yeah.
everybody's you could smell the alcohol from the guys in front of you. It's not fun. I was fortunate enough to get a road guard vest, so I could be the road guard and I could just run in front of everybody. So that was
Yeah. That I was never in front. I was always in the back.
well. I had the older NCOs the older NCOs because they were supplied and just they were there for a long time. They grabbed the road guard vest, so they were always in back, but they never came to relieve me. And I would
Mm.
always feel like, man, I got to sprint the whole formation and they're just like so. But that was good because I got to sprint, during the whole formation, and eventually I just stopped complaining, like, it's fun. So it was a good deal.
So I got to ask you a question, because I noticed with me, my fueling and food consumption was so messed up in the Army,
Hmm.
because of the fact that we didn't have time to eat. I don't know what guidelines they were using at the time, but it was essentially protein and carbs. Your plate was like you got chicken and potatoes, and yeah, there's a little. I don't even know. I don't remember eating vegetables, but I'm sure there were vegetables there. It's been a while since I've been in. Like, did you, like, now as a person who actually pays attention to your nutrition, like, do you see the patterns of that? Like, did that kind of pave a way for you to, like, in a good way or a bad way,
It,
or
it was in a good way
yeah?
because when I went in '86, and fortunately, we had good mess halls. And, not saying the food was great all the time, but, when I was from basic training to AIT, which is when you train for your military specialty or your job, it was a 6 month ordeal. School was 6 months, and then basic training was 6 weeks or eight, six, I can't remember,
8 weeks.
8 weeks. So the mess hall and basic training was great, because they don't want to break you down. They try to build you up so you can stay in the army. They're not trying to break you down like I would say in some of the older generations, like in the 70s and the 60s, where they could actually hit you upside the head whenever you went done right. Anyway, the food and basic was good, and there was a unit that was in for TDY. It was I was in artillery, so it was an artillery unit. It was an airborne unit in for what is it called? Forward operating controller. In other words,
Mhm.
they call the artillery in, or they call in the airplanes. Anyway, so the airborne guys, they were hardcore. So I'm like, I was doing KP duty one day, and I'm like, dude, y'all don't finish anything on your plate. And it's like, man, our stomachs are so tight from all the PT and all the running and just the training. There's no room to eat. And I was like, whoa. So that stuck in my head for a long time. And basically, when we were talking about protein, vegetables, and carbs, yeah, it was that. But we had a variety of all of that. So you could pick and choose what you wanted to eat. And so I just kind of ate like I grew up eating, chicken, beef, potatoes, and a vegetable, the three food groups. And, we drank Kool-Aid. The Kool-Aid was for hydration, which I wouldn't do that now, but it's like drinking Gatorade or was it Powerade or something with all the sugar in it,
Yes.
you know. But yeah, it laid a foundation. And when I got to Germany, I was in active army for 3 years, and I spent my whole tour in Germany. They had just activated the no more 18-month ETS back to or PTS back to the States. You had to do a full tour. So I did my 2.5 years in Germany, and the food in Germany was based off the economy food. What they used, they bought the mess hall bought food off the economy. So you got good meat, you got good vegetables, and everything was good. So the food was excellent. I mean, and the mess hall guys, we complained about it then, but looking back, the food was not bad at all. It was nutritious. So basically, the same three food groups or whatever. Sometimes at that age you eat like crazy. You might not want to eat anything but a piece of cake or whatever. But that stuck in my head because that helped me when I wanted to get back into shape. I said, okay, I need to eat first before I do any kind of training or trying to work out. And I hadn't worked out. I was a couch potato all during my 40s. I was like, I got to eat first and let me fuel my body. And so that carried over from the military for me. So to answer your question, so that stuck, and it still sticks, and more so now because I'm a nutrition counselor, a practitioner. Now it's like, okay, before I go do anything, and I'll look at the workouts. So we got to do 400 a day. Okay, I need to eat because there's no way I'm gonna do all these 400s without any food on me. Some of the workouts I can eat lighter, or some of my if I didn't have time to eat, I can just kind of go and work out and eat later. But we got to do 400s or 500s or sixes, or if you got to do them fast, you got to eat. So
So you had a period of time where you said you went plant-based. Like, how did that work for you? I know that I've seen things, because when you're online, you follow different fitness
mhm,
influencers, and there seems to be this, I don't know, I guess a trend toward the edges is the easiest way for me to say it, right? It's like,
yeah,
I can't just
branching.
have vegetable, I got to be
Right,
vegan or whatever. I can't just have protein. I got to be carnivore or, so
right.
as a nutritionist, like, how are you seeing those trends? And, you know, is there one good trend for everybody?
Not the way I practice, because the way we were taught, and just intuition, not everybody's built the same. Everybody has different genetic makeup. Everybody has their insides are just different, even though the insides do the same things and still have the same body functions. Everybody's different. So I wouldn't treat this if somebody comes in with a specific, so if two people came in with a specific health issue, I would not work with them the same way. First, I'm going to find out, I'm going to look for the root cause, because if they have a health issue, you and I could have a cold. or we could have, God forbid, diabetes 2 or something like diabetes. We arrived at it differently. So I can't treat it differently. The root cause is going to be different. So I kind of look at these diet trends as they might work for a good group of people because a lot of people swear off a carnivore. I'll eat meat and I lost 50,000 pounds. I'm like, good for you, but you can't tell that person right there to do that because they might get sick and die. Or, they might get sick. And, I think we've all seen that happen. When I tried this or I tried keto and my body just, I gained weight. And then
I
some
gained
people will
I
do
gained
keto,
weight on carnivore.
and then some people will eat keto and flourish. I just think it's a matter of individually, whatever the person needs for their particular, whatever their body needs for them, and that's how I look at it.
So if I come to you, so like, we know the obvious, right? Somebody
Yeah,
comes to you, they're overweight or they have diabetes or something. That is a very clear, problem or project for you to handle.
yeah,
What about if I say, I'm just trying to get in shape, but I'm noticing like I have all these injuries, like I'm always pulling muscles or, whatever. Is that also a factor that plays into nutrition?
yeah, yeah. That is one of the reasons why within my athletic program I created a section in there that's for injury recovery, and a lot of injury recoveries because I've seen them and what I've learned throughout the years, and especially when I went through the nutrition program was basically a lot of injuries occur because of nutrient deficiency. Like an Achilles can sometimes be a nutrient deficiency. I've worked with people and I've had some twinges in my Achilles where I uh, did a therapeutic dose of did therapeutic doses of glycine, and I just kind of made sure that all my minerals, protein, my aminos, I made sure all that was up to snuff, and I didn't have any more problems with that. But yeah, injuries a lot of times are from overtraining, of course, and a lot of them are from nutrient deficiencies. And once you can correct those deficiencies, then you start to see, them recovery, or you start to see them get injured left. I have some people that I run with, and they have chronic injuries. They're like, man, my leg won't stop hurting. I'm having a certain issue with my leg, and the doctors can't figure out what it is. And I'll bring it up, but a lot of times some people are stuck in their ways. So I say, well, hey, look, tell your doctor to maybe do this test. And a lot of these tests that I might run are not regular doctors won't run them because they're not
Okay.
covered by insurance. So a lot of these tests will go right in and tell you where you're deficient. And then those deficiencies, like I said earlier, can cause you those can cause those injuries. And a lot of injuries are based off of just chronic inflammation. And the inflammation comes from poor gut health. A person can be healthy on the outside, be a terrific athlete, but their gut health is poor. And this can be for anybody. What has 70% of the immune system in it. It has a lot to do with your inflammation. And that's usually one of the first places I start with anybody is I work on their gut health. We start looking at their gut health. And even like with weight loss, which you mentioned earlier, some people can be doing all the right things. They can be eating the right, they can be exercising and they cannot lose weight. And then, but what we'll find out is it's something, let's say maybe some trauma that they never let go of or they never addressed. And because your body is in protective mode, it's keeping that weight on.
Right.
And so once you can address that, then a lot of people have seen, well, I've worked with people and that weight starts coming off. I was working with one person and I was telling her, I was like, hey, look, she said, well, I'm eating okay, I'm doing it. And we, had been going through this for a while. I said, I want you to try something. Tell your metabolism you want to speed up. Talk to your metabolism, talk to your body, tell your body you want to lose weight, tell it what you want to do. And she called me back, or she texted me a week later. Matter of fact, it probably wasn't even that much. She said, I lost 2 pounds. And I'm like,
Love it.
I didn't say, see, I told you. Then she texted me back again. She said, I lost X amount of pounds. I'm like, great, great. Then I think I said, I told you, you know, you know, laughingly, of course.
Well, there is
But
that belief, right? I
yeah,
mean, on top of everything, because you can do as much, I can eat all the right foods,
yeah,
if you're my person. But if I'm like, this is crap, I don't even know why he's making me eat this. I'm not a rabbit,
right,
whatever it may be,
right,
then I may not receive the benefit,
right.
of those nutrients. So I wanted to kind of switch over because you were talking about the mind body piece and, how I mean, aside from, really getting in touch with your body, how do you implement that into your practice?
It just depends on the person because some people will come with that. They already have that mindset and they just need some, nutritional, they need to work on the nutrition and maybe a few other things. But basically, it's integrated. I'm asking you what's on your plate. I'm asking you all these different things. I'm asking you about trauma. So I'm also looking at that from the mind body standpoint as well because when the mind is not right, the other two factors of your body, I'm sorry, the spiritual side and the physical side can be okay or vice versa, but if the mind is not right, it's just not going to happen. The same thing with the weight loss. Your brain is not right or right or into it. It's just not going to happen. All these things have to work together in synergy for the right things to happen for good outcome.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like if I'm stressed out, then that's going to throw off my body and it's going to help increase inflammation, and then the inflammation's not allowing my body to work the way it needs to work, which is in fact then going to stress me out. So it becomes this horrible bicycle that we're riding in circles that is not going to get us anywhere. Well, so
Cortisol.
it's yeah, right. And that's the thing. And my daughter sent me something the other day because she was looking at it and I can't remember where she saw it, but it was something about the fact that people of color have higher cortisol levels than other people because of the fact of like the generational trauma and how that affects us. And, I guess my question for you is, how does that like, what are you seeing? Because I mean, it's people of color, but it's also just familial patterns, right? Like how we cook, how we eat, I guess the speed in which we eat,
Yeah.
right? Because, there are people that will sit down and they'll eat a meal together as a family. And it's funny because, if you're not religious, sometimes it's interesting because that moment where you take a second to like pray and have gratitude for your food, right, is that moment where you're connecting, right? You're grateful for the fact that the food is there. It's taking, it's giving you the opportunity to disconnect from the craziness of your day and to make yourself present to go ahead and probably have good nutrition and good, absorption and digestion and all those things. But are you seeing that like with your clients or these patterns, whether it's for people of color or for whether it's for people that are just in bad, like nutritional slash workout
I
slash wellness patterns?
Yeah, I see it in people of color. I see it in the grocery store. I'm just looking at what they have in their cart, and a lot of people. I wish I had my statistics in front of me, but just going off of what I see, and me being on this earth for a while, and parents and grandparents and just ancestors or whatever, I see a lot of our eating habits comes from our parents, from our families, and they get it from one generation, it passed down. And like as I was saying earlier, the food is not the same way as it used to be. And then I think a lot of people of color, we're in, I think we're in fight or flight a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to everybody else, because now I think everybody's in fight or flight the way things are going. But
Right.
we've been in fight or flight for so long, it's ingrained in us. So we pass that along to our offspring, and that has a lot to do with our health, our long-term health, because a lot of this stuff might not show up till you're 40, 50 years old. Why does this person have dementia? Why does this person have heart disease? And a lot of times it's not because your mom or dad had it. It's because you have the same habits that they have, the same eating pattern, the same mindset, the same trauma they might experience and pass on to you, or your mom passed on to you through when you were in the womb. That's a lot of what I see, and a lot of it, it can be corrected or misdirect or directed with education if that person's willing to receive it. A lot of people don't want to receive it. They're like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, oh. And so you can't you can't change anybody. And like my dad, and I found books, I found health books. Like, well, my dad read all these health books. What the hell? He had the knowledge, and my dad used to be he started out when I was young in the 60s, he worked for Church's Chicken. He started frying chicken and he worked his way up to president of Host International, which was I think the holding company or the company that owned churches, that ran churches. And so he had all these years of food experience because he would yell at me when I was young, like, use hot water when you wash the dish so you don't get the bacteria. And I'm like, man, I'm just trying to get out the kitchen so I can go out. So a lot of it is just, I think, people's mindset, and they don't want to get out of whatever they're in when it comes to food. And a lot of people they're religious about food. That's just their thing. Like, I don't want. I mean, people can get hostile. I always say, if I want to clear a room, I can clear a room faster just mentioning health than if I threw a grenade in the room. If I threw a grenade in the room, people are like, oh, okay, I'll gradually move. But if I say health, everybody's gonna scatter like roaches. It's a lot of different things, and it's kind of hard to touch on just one. And it's near and dear to my heart, so I try to educate as much as I can, but I also don't get caught up into, well, okay, I'm not gonna just try to drag you in. It's like, okay, you either in or you're out,
Right.
and hopefully you get it one day. Hopefully it might jog your mind and say, well, hey, I heard Eugene talking about this years ago or months ago, and let me try this. So that's where I stand on that.
It's funny, being in California, people have different attitudes, but I think daily, weekly, depends on who it is. A portion of our existence is around wine, especially for where I am in
Yeah,
Northern California. And so for years, I'd have these fitness challenges, after the new year, whatever it was. And I'd give you points for things that you did. Did you have, 2 cups of vegetables? Did you drink this amount of water? Did you, sleep this much? Did you work out?
yeah,
All these things. And one of the categories was abstain from drinking. And it was like you didn't lose points for not drinking, right? You just didn't get points for that category. And of all the things that I put on that sheet, that was the one that I fought with people the most. And it was very much like, for me, it was, I'm not telling you, you can go ahead and drink. Like, you don't have to get the points in that column, and
right.
they're like, well, that's unfair. Like, you know, and it's because there's certain areas where there's certain things. And for California, it's wine. People drink a lot of wine here.
Everybody, alcohol, 'cause a lot of new studies are coming out about how alcohol is bad for you, and people just go ape
they're offensive. They're
crazy.
they're
Yeah, they're
offended.
yeah,
Offensive.
they're
Yeah.
offended. They're like, what do you mean? No, a little bit of alcohol is not gonna hurt anybody. People have been drinking wine for hundreds of years, and yeah, they live to 30. Okay,
And the wine they were drinking was not and all the
suffering
stuff
and
that we
the
got in all that.
nitrates and all that stuff. It's just wild. I mean, on the comment section, people are just attacking a person. Say, hey, I'm not saying you can't drink. I'm just posting information,
Hmm.
and they just go crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, what do you have going on? Like, what are some of the things that you offer in your business? Because there's a lot of things that you have on your website, which we're going to go ahead and drop all that stuff um in the show notes. But you have some meal planning, you have different services that you offer clients, and would you like to share some of that?
Yeah, I've the meal planning is new because I always said I don't want to do any meal. I don't want to plan meals, but I started offering as a service. But what I've done, and I've got to update the website, is I've started offering it as a program, different programs, because that would serve people better than me just saying, hey, I'm going to send you a meal. I'm gonna do an intake, or you answer some questions. I'm just going to send you a meal plan. So I've been integrating those into programs. So one of them I have is like a 28 day meal plan or meal program where I do an extensive intake on your not the general intake I would do if you were coming into as a nutrition client, but it has its own intake. And I'm asking about your diet. I'm asking what you like to eat, what health challenges that you have, or what goal that you might want to accomplish. And that's that program. I also have another program which is called a technical nutrition program, and that's for men that are 40 plus. And basically, it's vitality. I do an extensive intake in that program, and so I'm asking about everything, because the object of the program is to build vitality and resilience holistically. I don't want to say get them off of medication, but if they can wean off of blood pressure or whatever, that's fine. They can get off the couch. But the program incorporates, hey, it's all these things. We're gonna look at your food. We're gonna look at your body. We're gonna look at your mind and spirit. So it incorporates all that. I have another program which I'm really passionate about as well the menopause nutrition program,
Hmm.
which was developed out of one of the meal planning programs, and I'm still kind of working my way through this program. But what it does is it teaches women how to eat and how to basically guide themselves through all these menopause symptoms like hot flashes, sweat, not sleeping, and basically it's just a balance to get the hormones balanced. And we can do that in conjunction with if they have a practitioner that they work with as far as hormone therapy and things of those nature, then we can bring in tests and say well, all the programs except for the meal program. I can bring in extensive testing, functional testing, and we can look into any area we want, from genetics to an organic acids test, which is going to look for nutrients, a lack of nutrients, or wherever it's going to look for your nutrient balance. The typical blood panels, all these different things.
That is a
And
lot.
I also have, but well, let me finish this next program. I have a holistic performance enhancement for athletes, which has three categories, which is one is the holistic uh, performance enhancement. The other one is impaired performance, which gets an athlete that might be overtrained. We can get him back into a normal state of training where he's not fatigued. We address fatigue and all these different things that are going on with
Hmm.
that. And then there's the injury recovery. We help athletes recover faster. And basically, it's just doing inflammatory things, anti-inflammatory things. But all these programs have a link because it's all based on functional nutrition, which is based on the whole body, the whole person, not just what you have on your plate, but also, your mind and your spirit, your whole body physiology. So that's why, and I was like, well, is this too many programs? Like, no, it covers enough niches, that I wanted to get into. And that's, especially the athletic one, because that's based on a lot of my training and a lot of the way I experimented throughout my 10 years running, which is going to be my 10th season coming up, this track season. So it's based on that. And I'll probably stay in that for a while. I have some other things that I do I'm developing, but they're kind of offshoots from these different programs, and they kind of go into just what the individual might need. Because I do like to work hard cases where somebody might come in with an autoimmune problem. And so we'll
Hmm.
try to solve that. We'll try to find a root cause of that and work on that. So it's all of that is general health, the menopause, the athletic, and the vitality, and they all kind of tie together.
And I will tell you, just taking a peek at the meal planning, like it's legit. Like
Yeah.
it's funny because my son is doing the HelloFresh right now, and your meal plan looks very similar, except you're using good stuff and not stuff that's in packages that comes to our house. But it's but in terms of like the explanation, the nutrients, the ingredient, you're
Yeah.
laying it out so that if you're somebody who may not be familiar with cooking, it looks like it's enough to get them started. And I think that people feel more confident once, because that's a good skill to have, right? Learning how to
Yeah.
cook is a good, learning how to garden is a good skill to have. Like these are
Oh
the
man,
little
that's
things, right, that you need to have. But
yeah.
having it laid out on that meal planning card, I think, will give people confidence to continue to do the things that they want to do that are going to allow them to build a healthier body.
Yeah, I'm also within that. I'm gonna do just to kind of bring more people in because that's a relatively new program. It's not that old. So what I'm gonna do is what I'm in the process of doing now. I just got to finish up some things. Is to get people in on a new year. I'm discounting it, so I'll have the promo code up on the website
Fantastic.
just to bring people in. And I've changed the intake where both of the there's two meal planning programs. One of them is plus, and one of them is the regular one. The regular one also gets a consultation. There's some details I'm working out, but the consultation is gold because we can sit down and design a plan around the person. And it's not just like, here, eat this, eat that. I'm looking at all these factors of what you present to me, and I'll have a meal behind that. Yeah, personalized, or what they say, catered, or what's the other word? I always forget this word. Begins with a C. Curated.
Curated. That's a high end word. That's a that's a 4-year degree word.
Curated.
Eugene, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
No, I just kind of like everybody to kind of look at nutrition without without the fear, because without this, like, oh, you're gonna tell me that I can't eat anything. Yeah, you can eat whatever you want. But we're not gonna. I'm not gonna just make you eat grass or anything. But I just kind of want people to look at functional nutrition differently because you know dietitians work differently than from what we do. Everybody has their own, their function in life. But we look at, like I said, we look at the whole person, and I'm trying to educate more people on that because it's actually it bridges the gap in healthcare because we look at everything. So that's pretty much it.
That is great information. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you having me.